Out of all the Bayverse movies, Transformers: The Last Knight is by far the one I've worked the hardest to try to come up with solid theories for. The movie just throws out wild concepts left and right, introduces them with zero explanation, and then just moves on like nothing ever happened. One of the strangest examples? That moment when Bumblebee literally explodes. His arms, legs, and even his head go flying, only to later snap right back together like it's just another Tuesday. The film never explains how he's able to do this. There's no line of dialogue, and there's no reaction from the characters around him. It just happens, and we're all expected to roll with it, despite the fact that it completely breaks the rules for what we thought we knew about how Transformers work. And as we know, this isn't something Bumblebee could always do, because back in the very first Transformers movie, Starscream blows his legs clean off, and B spends the rest of the final battle dragging himself around, completely helpless until Michaela helps hook him up to the back of a tow truck so he can still partake in the fight. If he had this ability back then, he absolutely would have used it, which makes his sudden new power in The Last Knight feel even more out of place. But if you dig through the movies carefully, there are a few subtle cues, scattered moments, background details, and even some behind-the-scenes info that can explain how this power came to be. So without further ado, let's figure out how Bumblebee gained one of the most overpowered abilities in the Bayverse.
Next time you shoot somebody, don't go near them till you're sure they're dead.
Alright, so before we break down how Bumblebee gained the ability to disassemble and reassemble himself mid-battle, here's a quick word from today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Using the internet without a VPN is like transmitting coordinates to Autobot HQ on an open channel. It's only a matter of time before someone intercepts it. From data brokers to shady surveillance programs, your every click is vulnerable. And with your personal info being more valuable than the matrix of leadership, that's a dangerous game. And so that's where Private Internet Access comes in. PIA is a virtual private network that hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection through a secure tunnel. That means your activity stays protected from hackers, trackers, or let's be honest, Soundwave. I love PIA because they are the world's most transparent VPN provider. With over 30 million downloads and a strict no-logs policy that's been proven in court and verified by a third-party audit from Deloitte, it's also open source, meaning anyone can inspect the code, which makes it one of the most trustworthy VPNs out there. But beyond privacy, it's also great for entertainment. Whether you want to stream geo-blocked content like watching Transformers: The Last Knight, which isn't on US streaming platforms but is available in Canada, PIA has you covered. Just switch your geolocation to Canada and bam, you can watch it immediately. It even supports P2P file sharing, which most VPNs don't. It works on Windows, macOS, Android, Linux, iOS, and more. And one subscription covers an unlimited number of devices. Right now, if you use my link in the description, you can get an exclusive deal, 83% off. That's just $2.03 a month. Plus, you'll get 4 extra months completely free. It's totally risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. So if you want to protect your data from Decepticons or just from your ISP, check out Private Internet Access using the link below. Alright, so now that your online data is safe from Decepticons, let's talk about how Bumblebee somehow unlocked the ability to blow himself apart and pull off a full-on mid-air reassembly. And well, a good place to start is to first designate what this ability even is. While the film never gives it a name, thanks to ILM animation supervisor Rick O'Connor, we actually do have an official term for it, MagTech. You see, according to O'Connor, the original idea was for Bumblebee to scatter into tiny ball bearings before reformatting back into his robot form. Fearing that the idea would be a little too out there, he pitched something more grounded, MagTech, a new upgrade that lets Bumblebee's limbs detach and then reattach themselves. Michael Bay liked the concept, but wanted to make sure that there was a physicality to it, and that they didn't just magically float back into place. The final result in the movie was that each part had to work to get itself back to Bumblebee, as if his limbs were fighting against gravity, springing themselves into place with force and momentum. ILM even ran motion studies to visualize this, which directly informed how they staged the practical shoot on set. So now that we know what this ability is and how it's supposed to work, the next question is, what's the actual benefit to Bumblebee? At first glance, it might seem like this wouldn't give him much of an edge in a fight against the Decepticons, and you'd be absolutely right, because this ability isn't designed for combat with other Transformers. It's meant to neutralize a very different kind of threat, humans. You see, Bumblebee doesn't just split apart. He's got a whole toolkit built for dealing with humans. We see claws emerge from his mouth so he can grab onto someone directly, and even wheels extend from inside his head to drag them around like cargo. It's weird, unsettling, and clearly not meant for fighting other Cybertronians. That's because this whole ability is designed for crowd control, specifically for handling squads of armed humans. And when you look at what Bumblebee has been up against since Age of Extinction, this upgrade starts to make a lot more sense. As we know, after the Battle of Chicago, the CIA went completely rogue. Their covert unit, Cemetery Wind, began systematically hunting down the Autobots, and we saw what that looked like with Ratchet and Leadfoot. They were boxed in by SUVs mounted with miniguns, swarmed by soldiers, and ultimately overwhelmed. Neither of them stood a chance. By the time the last night rolls around, Cemetery Wind has been disbanded, but is replaced by something even bigger, the Transformers Reaction Force. Unlike Cemetery Wind, the TRF wasn't just a Black Ops team, it was a global paramilitary task force backed by world governments. Their mission? To capture or kill Cybertronians, regardless of allegiance. In The Last Night, we see the TRF use the same tactics as Cemetery Wind: surround, suppress, and eliminate. And that's where Bumblebee's MagTech comes in. Unlike Ratchet and Leadfoot, who were forced to engage one target at a time, trying to hold their ground while being overwhelmed, Bumblebee could quite literally fight on multiple fronts at once. Each of his detached limbs became an independent threat. While one leg disarmed a soldier, an arm could disable a vehicle, all while the rest of his body was neutralizing several other targets. It gave him a level of versatility and crowd control that no other Autobot before him had. It was all about outmaneuvering a force designed to neutralize Cybertronians through sheer numbers and firepower. Where Cemetery Wind and the TRF relied on coordination and overwhelming tactics, Bumblebee's MagTech turned him into a one-bot resistance unit, capable of scattering under pressure and reassembling mid-assault. It's an ability that was the key difference between capture and making it out alive. So now, knowing why this power was a necessity for Bumblebee's survival, the next question is, where did it come from? Because while it may have seemed like it came out of nowhere, we've actually seen something like it before. Back in Revenge of the Fallen, there's a brief but unforgettable moment where Jolt uses his electro whips to fuse Jetfire's remains onto Optimus Prime. With a surge of energy, he dismantles Jetfire's body midair and guides the parts into place, forming a fully integrated jetpack for the Autobot leader. It wasn't just a cool visual. It was the first time we saw a Cybertronian use electromagnetic force to manipulate and reconfigure components remotely. But there's a key difference. Jolt was performing an external operation, using his energy to break down another Transformer and rebuild them into something new. Bumblebee's MagTech, on the other hand, is completely internal. He's not reconfiguring someone else, he's breaking himself apart and putting himself back together in real time, with no external input. So while the execution is different, the core concept is similar: disassemble, manipulate, and reassemble. Bumblebee's MagTech feels like an evolved, self-contained version of that same principle, only now turned inward and fine-tuned for combat. And it raises an even bigger question: if this kind of technology existed before, when exactly did Bumblebee get his hands on it? Well, given everything that we know, Bumblebee must have acquired this upgrade sometime after the events of Age of Extinction, and thanks to The Last Night, we have a pretty solid candidate for who might have supplied it: Day Trader, the Autobots' junk dealer and battlefield scavenger. While the Autobots saw him as more of a nuisance than a help, Day Trader was always bringing in salvaged Cybertronian parts and gadgets he was able to find from God knows where. And so it's entirely possible he came across the MagTech and passed it off to Cade Yeager, who as the Autobots' mechanic installed it directly into Bumblebee. So while The Last Night never takes the time to explain it, the clues are all there. Bumblebee's MagTech wasn't just some random plot convenience. It was the result of years of escalating conflict, changing threats, and a desperate need to adapt. It all goes to show just how far Bumblebee has come since Mission City, and how far the war has pushed him to evolve.